Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of On Brand from Muse by Clio. I'm Nicole Purcell, the president of the Clio Awards. And before we bring out my co-host, Mr. Tim Nudd, here's a quick word from our partners at Salesforce. Good afternoon, Tim. How are you?
Hey, Nicole. Doing well. How are you?
I am good. I'm tired of the weather being a little blah, but I'm so excited for today because I feel like we have another family member coming in to interview.
Totally. Yeah, we have Andrew McKechnie. He's the SVP, Chief Creative Officer at Verizon. We've known Andrew for a long time. Obviously, a very creative brand over the last few years. They've taken a really interesting approach to marketing, what's essentially a tech product in a very humanizing way. And we've got several interesting content pieces to talk about with Andrew. So let's welcome Andrew McKechnie.
Hey.
Good to see you.
It's so great to see you. I love the art behind you.
Thank you.
I know about the bar behind you, so I'm excited about that. We have not personally... we haven't been together in a meaningful way since Clio judging in Germany a couple of years ago, where we got to meet your beautiful family, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
So tell us how they're doing during this COVID time over 6 months, and where you're living, what's happening right now.
Well, it's been a journey, I would say, for everyone, right? I no complaints on the family side. I have healthy wife, healthy kids, healthy family, and healthy friends. Across the states, but also back in New Zealand. So I feel super fortunate and blessed. I have kids in school today, which again, is kind of crazy to think that kids being in school is also a very fortunate situation, but. So things have, I think have progressed over the last 6 months in ways that, we probably have never had imagined, but everyone is in a good space. So that's really all that matters at the moment. But I'm in Brooklyn. This is, ends up being my home office, which it changes daily because there is not one room that I stay in. So everyone always comments that I move around. I can't sit still. So I'm always moving around the house to different locations.
Well, that's good. It also gives the people you're talking to different views, so they don't get they get to see different things about you.
That is true. Yes.
So since you've been at Verizon, you have done a great job of humanizing what Verizon offers. And during this time, have you doubled down on that? What's the changes you've done since COVID started?
Yeah, I think what's been really interesting about COVID is it's probably just put more of an emphasis on the type of work that we had started probably 2 to 3 years ago, in terms of trying to humanize the brand and put a bit more of a personal face and authenticity to the way that we kind of explain and talk about the network, right? So a lot of the work that we've been doing kind of naturally led to a continuation of our strategy. So nothing's really changed as such in terms of the type of work that we've been doing. Obviously, the way that the work gets done has changed. There's, from a production standpoint, there's a whole new world of how marketers and agencies are approaching the production piece of it. But for us, really putting a focus on our customers, showcasing what our engineers are doing and the innovation behind the scenes around 5G. All of those things have continued. And so I feel like, if anything, COVID has really put a bit of a pin on, okay, which brands are kind of showing up in authentic ways. Because, 6 months ago, I think everyone had to kind of reconfigure who they are, how they show up, how they're looking after their customers, what is their offering, fundamentally a lot of shifts for many brands 6 months ago. And we went through that as well, but we had to we had to react really quickly and take care of both our employees and our customers.
Yeah, it's good to have that foundation of being known as a caring brand towards consumers. That's probably helpful. Andrew, 5G, you mentioned, is obviously a really big story right now. And before we get to sort of the specific pieces of marketing you've been doing, wondering if you could tell us kind of your overall strategy for sort of educating people about what 5G is and what Verizon offers in particular.
Yeah, I mean, 5G is definitely been a journey for us over the last 2 to 3 years as we've started to build out not only our strategy but just the expansion of 5G across America. Hopefully you noticed that we had a couple of big announcements a few weeks ago with our 5G nationwide launch and our on-stage moment with Hans Vestberg, our CEO, on stage with Tim Cook at the Apple keynote, announcing not only nationwide launch but the first iPhone with 5G. So some that was a big moment for us, kind of years in some ways in the making, not only from a network evolution standpoint, but just the amount of work and planning that went into that. I think for us, we've really always tried to think about our strategy in terms of trying to help educate our customers as well. I mean, 5G has been a little bit nebulous, to say the least, in terms of the way in which it started to come to life for customers. And for us, the October launch was really a moment in time where we felt like the components are suddenly have come together. The devices, the right technology, use cases, obviously now all kind of culminating in a moment. But we've spent a lot of time really trying to educate people around the different types of 5G, meaning our 5G flavor of ultra wideband, and what we believe that will be able to do for people and businesses and society at large. So it's been a long road in that respect, and it's going to continue. It's a very formative technology. It still isn't widespread in certain areas, and we're introducing new devices every year. So that's just going to continue, and I think you'll see more and more people and companies and partners taking that technology and doing new things with it every day. So I think that's what we're mostly excited about, is just kind of seeing now where it goes. I think it's like it's out in the wild, and now let's see what people do with it.
Yeah, I've been a Verizon customer for a long time, and I can't wait for it to come to Portland, Maine. I don't know when that's happening, but and we'll get to the Chris Rock spot you did with Apple in a minute, but I wanted to ask you about the Speed of Thought documentary that you guys made. Actually, let's look at a little clip from that, and then we can chat about that.
Sure.
We used to teach that you had 15, 20 minutes to get out of your home. Today we tell you have 15, 20 seconds.
A lot of people before me have been doing work to break the glass ceiling and provide a pathway. You should break the whole ceiling and bring everybody through.
This is life-saving technology that helps everyone.
The goal is to entirely eliminate serious injuries by 2027.
It's a big leap forward to go from where we were then to what is able to be accomplished with 5G 5th generation.
I think we're going to see stuff that just wasn't possible, and you're going to look back and marvel at it.
So Andrew, I mean, tell me if this is true. I feel like, a lot of people think of 5G about, what it might mean for them in terms of faster connections, things like that. This is obviously a much larger aperture that you're looking at this through, how it's going to benefit society. Why are you guys best positioned to tell these sort of grander stories about the value of this tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've seen as a company in regards to how people talk about 5G, is that they talk about it in the sense of being an incremental, technology shift in regards to maybe speed, and it's like, though that is true, but for us, we believe that 5G and our millimeter wave 5G ultra wideband has a much more profound capability. And it's it was something that, as I think it was CES 2000, I want to say it was 2018. Again, when Hans was doing a keynote there, and we had like these just amazing partners that we announced on stage who were basically some of the first partners that were going to take our 5G UW technology, and we created, in partnership with our 5G labs. And I could tell at that point, like you were kind of on the cusp of this moment in time. And we talk about it in terms of being the fourth industrial revolution. And I think I wanted to take this moment and try to remember it somehow. And that was kind of the beginning of like, well, let's document this journey, because often in retrospect, especially with technology, it's like, we blaze through new devices every year, all of the things that we've grown up with. If you look back even 5 years, you'd be like, oh, wow, like a lot has changed, right? A lot has shifted. And I think it's always fascinating to kind of have that frame of reference. And even this film, it took 2 years to complete this. And it was really because I felt like these people are kind of these innovators that are on this new frontier, kind of exploring what this technology is going to do, and they don't know if it's going to be successful. I always think it's really interesting to kind of see the process. It gives us the ability to obviously do more long form and tell longer narratives. But it's like it's not easy. It's messy. It's kind of like it was rough. It looked like people were in their garages, kind of like putting things together and stuff. And I just thought that was a really fascinating story to tell, which is kind of like a peek behind the curtain of not only the innovation, but the technology that's happening at Verizon. And to put a different point of view out there, that actually this isn't easy. You can't just put out a technology and expect everyone to think that it's going to be amazing. You have to do the hard work behind it and build it right. And that's always been a foundational strategy for us, is to explain to people that we build the networks in the right way. And I think, and to be not to be shy about showing, the ugliness of technology development, because it's fascinating. And so we leaned into, just the people that were doing really interesting things with our 5G technology, and they happen to be around some really big societal issues. And I think that's where we see ultimately the potential is that, whether it's education, with virtual learning, and all of these things have been accelerated, in the last 6 years. Anything virtual, whether it's medicine, education, cities, safety, and things like that. These are big kind of societal issues and challenges that need solving. And I think the timeline has been hugely accelerated now based on the pandemic and COVID and the need for these types of things to actually be in people's lives. So in a lot of ways, I probably didn't imagine the importance of what some of these innovators are doing right now. Like it's just, it's pretty amazing that they were really trying to push the edges of this technology so early on, around big kind of thematic themes that society's really trying to address at this moment.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you guys sort of trust consumers to be open to a richer, longer story, because it is a big story. You can't tell it in a 30 or 60 seconds usually.
Yeah, I mean, it's anything that gets close to an hour, you've got to believe is going to be challenging for anyone to watch. I mean, it's not, documentaries in themselves are not necessarily the most watched medium. And we definitely tried to make it not feel like this was just a Verizon story. Obviously, Verizon appears in the appropriate places based on just the natural, organic nature of people talking about the technology. But it's about these people trying to do something great at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Let's look at a more, I guess, quote unquote, traditional piece of content, which is the spot that you guys did with Apple, co-branded with Apple with Chris Rock. I think we have a clip from that as well.
Hi, I'm Chris Rock. Oh, it's not about me. I get it. No. Zoom in on it. The new iPhone 12 Pro with 5G meets Verizon 5G ultra wideband. You want me to turn it around? Pow! This is a game changer. 5G just got real, man.
And of course, there's much more to that spot. Chris Rock, always a great spokesman.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this one and sort of how the collaboration with Apple works on spots like this.
Well, I mean, I think this was a very unique situation. We're obviously great partners with Apple, and we've done a lot of things in the past, and we do campaigns every year. This was something I would say was pretty special. The fact that it was a co-branded spot where it was really about the partnership and the coming of these two companies, both from a device standpoint and a technology standpoint, to kind of signal, the next era in mobile is defined by this moment. So, I mean, the spot is obviously the outcome of a much larger partnership and a lot of other work that went on behind the scenes, including the keynote announcement with Hans on stage, Tim Cook. And so this was really a moment to kind of set in motion that at this point onwards, this is when we believe 5G with the right technology, the right devices, in the hands of consumers and businesses and and innovators is where we see as being kind of the defining moment when it's going to be out there and people are going to be able to do some great things with it. So the process, is challenging to do anything like this. You've got two great brands, and obviously Apple with an amazing legacy and creativity. And I came from Apple previously to Verizon, so it was kind of a little surreal in some ways to be working with my old ex-colleagues and my new friends and colleagues and just two brands that I've spent the better part of 7 years working on in that one moment coming together. So for me, it was a really proud moment, and I think also for us as a company and our teams to be able to do something at that on a global stage at that level, for Apple to kind of signal to the world that 5G is also about the right 5G technology, and that's why we've put so much effort and belief behind ultra wideband.
One of the things I love about you is that you're personally committed to make, I think, the world a better place. I'm going to read some of the things you're doing at Verizon because it's a lot. God bless you. You're co-chair of Verizon's diversity and inclusion efforts across all of the agencies, the companies, and everything. You are leading the Charge for See Her initiative, which we love and we work with as well, and Free the Work, same thing. So you're really taking on a lot and really want to see better things happen, which we appreciate. And I love that. How important is it for marketing leaders to get involved and have a voice out there?
I mean, to me, it's part of the job. I mean, I don't think you can not be doing that. I mean, we have a responsibility to do it as marketers. Brands have the responsibilities to play these types of roles within society. And I think the expectation from customers has been that, brands have to show up and they have to, that there's just higher expectations. I've always felt like as a creative, like both from when I was a junior copywriter all the way through to, being a CD and running accounts and stuff like that. I've always, my best work has always, I feel like, has been things that are a little bit more selfless and being able to kind of lean into areas where I feel like I'm doing something bigger than myself or an ad. And I think most people kind of go through that in advertising at some point where they realize like, okay, like it can't always just be about me winning awards or the creative output. The creative output has to be able to drive something, right? And it has to be able to either drive a better experience for a customer, better business outcomes, or better societal gains in some way. And so both my time at Apple and obviously Verizon had put a lot of emphasis around, how can we tell a brand story that showcases those things in terms of what we can do in society, both from a technology standpoint, but then also like what more can we do as a company? And that could be anything from, Verizon Innovative Learning, with the education, or a lot of the work that we do with See Her and Free the Work. So to me, it's just, I feel like it's just part and parcel of what we have to do. And our purpose, from a Verizon standpoint, is also like we create the networks to move the world forward. So it's like we have an obligation to make sure that we're doing that. We can't leave anyone behind. We have to make sure that we bring everyone along with us.
Well, I think you're generous in saying that everyone feels that way or gets to that point in their careers, but I think it's amazing what you're doing and we all appreciate it. And to be involved personally is so important. So thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Andrew, you've been at Verizon for a while. You mentioned being at Apple, but prior to Apple, you had a long career on the agency side. So I'm wondering sort of what all those roles and your career arc in general sort of taught you about how to be an effective, CCO on the brand side.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really interesting journey for me, and I try to figure out like what it is that led me on this path in some ways. I lived in a lot of different countries, and I had the great fortune of just experiencing many different cultures. And so I think inherently I was a little bit like, my DNA is being built to be a little bit restless and kind of constantly seeking new experiences, new things. And so advertising was an amazing platform for me in a lot of ways, because it allowed me to really try out a lot of different types of things. I've always been passionate about art, whether it's actually making art and painting, photography, etc. I've always loved writing, and I never really knew how to what to do with all those skills. And so advertising is an amazing canvas in terms of like, okay, you want to dive into film, then you can get into the moving picture. If you want to get into print and understand the beauty and the simplicity of graphic language and images, all of those things I've just been obsessed with. And so throughout my career, I've just constantly tried to add new skills to the way in which I think as a creative person. And in my early days, I had a lot of mentors or my bosses at least would be like, look, are you a writer or are you an art director or are you a designer? Like, pick a lane. And I was like, I'm a writer. That's what my paycheck's definitely going towards me being a copywriter, but I love design. I love art direction. I love getting involved in all those things. And so I think I've probably morphed more into the design and art space as my career has progressed, because that's probably where my true passion is. But it was probably partly because I never actually learned the skills of how to be on a Mac and like actually art direct. So there are just some things that were set in place at the time that I think have just led me on this journey. But I think that kind of the curiosity of that has just made me always kind of interrogate what's going to lead to better creative outcomes. And so I've always been fascinated by strategy. I've always been fascinated by, okay, like if we get a better brief, are we going to get better creative output? And that's what's really led me to also moving to brand side and my first move from agency side to Apple was that pursuit of, if I get closer to the product, if I get closer to the knowledge, will I be able to create better creative outcomes? And so it's all about that. And I feel like even in my role currently, I manage obviously a big creative organization internally, but I also manage a lot of the external agencies. And part of my job is not only to approve great creative concepts, but it's to try and foster a culture and processes and skill sets that allow the bigger ecosystem of creativity to do their best work ultimately.
So speaking of being on the client side and having the past in the agencies, what are you looking for in agencies that you work with, and how do you work with them? I mean, I know we know some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm very fortunate that I inherited a great agency portfolio in a lot of ways. Diego did a lot of cleanup when he came in terms of like scaling back and kind of putting a lot of rigor and emphasis on the quality of what we expect from our agencies. I mean, I would say, you know, the blessing and the curse of me being a client and a creative, obviously that's come from advertising, is that I just have, you know, high expectations for craft and for ideas. And so that's really, at the end of the day, I'm always driving for like, okay, like, yes, it's got to be an amazing strategy. We've got to get that right. But at the end of the day, like, even if it's a great strategy and it doesn't execute well, it doesn't really matter. And so for me, having teams that deeply care about the work they do, and it's not just a job, and it's not just a send in a script, and if they don't like it, it doesn't matter, we'll just write another one. Like, you've got to care about the work that you do. And I think that's really important to me, and to try to foster that with the teams. And then also the craft aspect, because I think craft is often neglected in a lot of ways. So whether it's writing, whether it's design, you know, photography, film, all of those things that are really important in terms of brands like Verizon, who are on a bit of a journey of reinvention. Those things matter more than when you go to a company where, like Apple or Nike or anyone else that's got like a really strong pedigree in certain areas. I've got to work harder, and I've got to get my agencies and my team to work harder to think about those disciplines, because we don't have the luxury of being a brand that, you know, people look up to as being like, wow, yeah, they're the foremost, you know, brand and design and aesthetic and all those things. So we've gone on a pretty, I would say, a good journey for the last, 3 to 4 years that I've been there. But we've got to get better, and we've got to continue to kind of surprise people in terms of the way that we're showing up. And I feel like not only the aesthetic of the brand has obviously evolved, but the ideas and the way that we've tried to, hopefully people see that, but the way that the brand shows up and is bringing humanity and a different kind of face to what the network and the technology can do for people. Those are all things that are building a brand ultimately. And it needs to continue. And next year will be another big year for us, I think, in terms of where we go next.
You're going to be head down on 5G, it sounds like, for the next sort of 6 to 12 months. But can you give us any hints on what the creative approach might be in the next 6 months, say?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's for me now, it's like 5G is kind of really needs to prove itself out, and to really see what people are gonna ultimately do with it. And I think now's the time to probably kind of lean into the way in which people start to use the technology in a more overt way. So even if I think about the Speed of Thought as a documentary, that's kind of a bit of a retrospect in terms of how we've built the network out and the evolution of 5G. Whereas now I think it's more about, let's showcase and celebrate how people are going to be taking this technology, doing really interesting things with it. So more tangible examples, more proof, really getting into kind of like what are the stories now that are coming out of how people leverage this technology across, whether it's from a consumer standpoint, so people with devices, or whether it's in business, because the transformations for businesses and society is going to be huge as well. So we're going to continue to push in on those areas and tell those stories.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you with us today. It's amazing to give our love to your family. Hopefully soon we can see you again in person.
Yeah.
And best of luck with everything.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. And it's great to be here and see you guys again as well.
Good to see you.
Thanks. Bye.
Very cool. Big tap. Big task ahead.
I'm exhausted right now for everything that he works on, but it's amazing. He's amazing, and excited for them. Good to see you, Tim.
Yeah, have a good one. And thank you guys for watching. For the latest in creativity every day, please check out musebyclio.com. And we're back here every Thursday with new episodes of On Brand. So see you next time.